Well, everyone, welcome to the Rotary District 5190 Leadership Assembly. I'm Jon Greene, and I'm facilitating the session on Rotary and Toastmasters. We're going to have some fun today. We've got a group of Toastmasters, some of whom are Rotarians, and some who are not, who will be giving all of you a demonstration as to what happens at a Toastmasters meeting. But before we get into that, let me do a little quick screen share. And introduce my team very briefly. They will introduce themselves later on. And there's one minor change here, Melanie. Melanie told me this morning that she has handed in her application to a Rotary Club. Melanie, which Rotary Club are you joining?
That'll be Laguna Sunrise in Elk Grove, California. So a little ways away from you guys. But.
All right. And the reason is that Rotary District 5190 and Toastmasters District 39, which is what we're in, don't overlap exactly. So Toastmasters 39 also goes into Rotary 5180 and a couple of other districts going up all the way to Reading. And I don't remember how far south it goes. So we do have some overlap. And if you look at the Toastmasters International Mission, what I'd like to point out is there are really two things involved. One is being an effective communicator, and the other is improving leadership skills. And when we think of Rotary and some of the items that Rotary offers to its members, one of them is leadership skills. Rotary and Toastmasters are organized in a very similar manner in that you have a club. You then have divisions, you have districts, you have conferences at various levels, and you have fellowship in both organizations. And to me, that fellowship in Toastmasters and in Rotary is why I have been a member of both organizations for a long, long time. Toastmasters works on the concept that each person has their own way of communicating. And that what you want to do as a member is hone in on the method that works best for you. There are some communicators who can effectively use humor. I'm not one of those communicators. There are other communicators that effectively do a form of storytelling as they create their presentations. I'm one of those people. Whatever your style is in Toastmasters, you learn how to hone in on your communication style. You learn leadership by starting out and holding leadership positions within Toastmasters, but also as you move through the Toastmasters program, which I'll explain in a moment, you begin working on leadership skills. So what happens when you join Toastmasters? When you join a local Toastmasters club and you find one, same way you find a Rotary club, you go to toastmasters.org. Right up at the top of the website, locate a club. Put in your city and you get a list of clubs. And you go visit that club. And if you decide after visiting a few times to join, you will then pick a path. A path I liken to a lesson module or a class. There are over 10 paths to choose from, and they all hone in on a couple of things, all of them public speaking, all of them confidence building, because all of us, no matter how confident we think we are, there are areas where we need to do a little confidence building. And then each path takes you into a particular area that may be leadership or may be speaking or a little of each. Dynamic leadership, creative coaching, engaging humor, which is how to speak with humor, motivational strategies. Personally, I just finished the presentation mastery path, which concentrates on the public speaking part of it. And now I'm starting to work on the motivational strategies path. When you finish a path, you can pick up and do another path. So the opportunity for learning is there. After we do the next part of the program, which is going to be, we're going to give you a little taste of what a Toastmasters meeting is like. We're going to talk a little about how the two organizations can come together at our club levels for some great synergy and really helping each other out. Every Toastmasters club conducts its meeting a little differently. And what we're going to do today is have an abbreviated version of the core parts of a Toastmaster meeting. And there are three things, I feel, in a Toastmasters meeting. Number one is what's called the prepared speech. In other words, public speaking. Number two is what we call table topics. It's being asked the question and giving the quick response. Your teenage kid asks you a question that you're not expecting. Are you going to be flustered or be able to answer it? Do you want to appear at a city council meeting? And within that 3 minutes you have, be able to testify on something. And then lastly, we grow and improve a very simple way by getting feedback, which in Toastmasters we call an evaluation. What's going to happen today is we're going to have a Toastmasters meeting. And the meeting is chaired by a Toastmaster. The confusing thing is, if you join a Toastmasters club, you are a Toastmaster. But if you're conducting the meeting on a particular day, you are the Toastmaster of the day. And I would like to ask the rest of my team to introduce themselves. Nick, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name is Nick Connell. I'm part of First Nevadans Toastmasters, and today I will be one of the speakers.
David.
Good morning, David Porter. I live here in Reno, Nevada. I'm part of a club called Reno Storytellers, and today it is my honor and privilege to evaluate Nick's speech.
Carol.
Good morning. My name is Carol Stiving. I am a member of the Rotary Club of Reno Central. I am also a member of the Reno Storytellers, and today I will be your timer.
And Martha.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Martha Greene. I'm also a member of Reno Sunrise and a member, Reno Sunrise Rotary Club, and also a member of First Nevadans Toastmasters. And today I will be conducting table topics.
Melanie.
Hi, I am Melanie Stark. I am a member of Speaking Machine Toastmasters and also one of the founders of Laugh A Lot Toastmasters and also the area director for Area 94 for Toastmasters.
That's within Toastmasters,
Yeah.
area director. And each of our participants, except Nick, when they do their part, will give a little brief introduction as to what they're doing and why it's important. And we have a special guest with us today representing Toastmasters District 39, an dear friend of mine, Nancy Potts. Nancy is the quality director. So where we use the word governors in Rotary, in Toastmasters, they use the word director.
Hello, everybody. I'm welcome to be a guest at this meeting. I'm excited to see this come together for all.
And now, that was my gavel. I have called our Toastmasters meeting to order. Welcome everyone for a fun and exciting time. We have a great program today. Our speaker, Nick Connell, will be giving his icebreaker speech, which is the first speech that a Toastmasters gives. Nick's evaluator is David Porter. David, could you give us Nick's objectives for his presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. The purpose of this project is for Nick to introduce himself to the club and give a basic structured public speech. As it is an icebreaker speech, Nick gets to choose his own topic.
And Nick will be speaking for 4 to 6 minutes. Let's give a big welcome to Nick Connell. 2 reasons why I joined Toastmasters. Nick.
Thank you, John, and hello, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Today, I'm going to give you 2 reasons why I joined Toastmasters. Although there were a handful, these were easily the 2 of my main reasons for joining. Before I do, I want to give a little background on myself. I grew up in Northern California in a town called Brentwood, and I moved to this area when I was 19 years old. I started my career as a retail banker in a branch in Truckee, California, and I worked my way up the corporate ladder and became a business banker my first year. I was really excited about that. I moved to their wealth management division and helped with investment strategies and retirement planning, which I did for a few years. And I really loved the banking industry, or I should say banking in general, and also helping people on a financial level. I hated working in the banking industry though. Working in corporate America was also very challenging for me. So I started to look for a new job in a similar industry, but getting away from that corporate feel. And this led me to my current job now, which is with LP Insurance, a local insurance broker headquartered in Reno, Nevada. I've been with LP for about 4 years, and my role is to help mid-market businesses and municipalities set up and manage their employee benefits. This includes medical, dental, vision, life insurance, and disability insurance. And this is offered from the employer to the employees. My favorite part about my job is creating these strategies for companies to roll out to their employees, not only to help contain cost, but also enhance employees' benefits programs and also help with their overall experience with their benefits. Now, with that came a lot of education for the employees. Part of my role would be giving open enrollment meetings for employees to explain how their benefits worked. And since we work with mid-market businesses, these meetings can go from or have anywhere from about 20 employees all the way up to one of my largest being about 300 employees. So they can be large meetings, especially for someone like myself who hates public speaking. And this leads me to, well, let me back up for a second. I will say that when I first started working at LP, I used to get the worst nights of sleep, just being so nervous about having to come to these open enrollment meetings. And, I'd show up with raccoon eyes, I'd be half asleep, and it was never any fun. But this leads me to my first reason for joining Toastmasters, which was to help overcome my nerves when it came to public speaking. And for those of you who spoke to large groups from time to time, you'll know that maybe about your 5th or 6th time of doing it, your nerves start to go away. But I feel like if you don't continue to do that, or maybe you take an extended break from that, you end up hitting the restart button and you just go back to where you started. So, I knew if I joined Toastmasters, it would be, I'd be meeting with the group on a weekly basis, and it'd keep me sharp, especially during my early years of my career, and then hopefully stick with me for years to come. But the next part of my job, and arguably my main role, is to sell these programs and strategies to businesses. A typical presentation usually has about 5 people present. We have owners, CFO, the human resources team, and you have to think I'm in my 20s, and you have someone like myself who's giving employee benefit strategies to a person who has spent decades building these businesses or this business. And I could easily be friends with one of their kids. They're like, hey, this guy over here is friends with my kid and he's telling me what to do with my benefits program. So it's been challenging, but what I think helps people do this job well is articulating these strategies in an easy way to understand for everyone to get on board and really feel confident in what they're giving to the employees. And I think where a lot of people fail is their articulation is very hard to understand. And I think employers can, at least what it seems like, become overwhelmed in just a snap of a finger. But between us, I have a lot of confidence, and I'm very proud of what our agency offers. And I've never really struggled with selling, but given how complex some of these employee benefit strategies are, fine-tuning my articulation has always been a work in progress. And this brings me to my second biggest reason for joining Toastmasters, which was to improve articulation. And I think this is something that's always overlooked. You can be a very confident speaker, and it doesn't mean that your articulation is great. So to me, a good speaker is confident, but again, someone that can present something in an easy to understand fashion and format it appropriately. So that's my second reason of joining Toastmasters. And I will say I've been a part of Toastmasters for about 2 years. I never thought I'd say this, but I no longer have any fears about public speaking. So fellow Toastmasters and guests, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Nick. Carol, could you do 2 things? Give us Nick's timing and also tell us the reason that we do timing.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. First of all, the time for Nick's speech was 5 minutes and 34 seconds. So he made his time window of 4 to 6 minutes. The role of the timer at a Toastmasters meeting is to time every time somebody speaks. We have table topics, we have the speakers, and the evaluations. Using these signs, I let red, green, and yellow, or actually green, yellow, and red signs, I let the speakers know where they stand on their time. For our icebreaker speech, it was 4 to 6 minutes, and you saw the signs come up at 4 or 5, and had he gone to 6 minutes, I would have put up the red sign, but he didn't need that. For table topics, at the 1 minute sign, I would raise the green sign. At 1 minute, 30 seconds, the yellow card, and then at 2 minutes, it would be the red card, and that would be table topics for 1 to 2 minutes. The evaluations are between 2 and 3 minutes, so that at 2 minutes, I would give David the green the green card, and then at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the yellow card. And then if you hit 3 minutes, I would do the red card. And but he still gets about 30 seconds leeway. So thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you. We're now going to move into what I have always felt is my favorite part of a Toastmasters meeting, and that is table topics. Martha, it is all your show.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Table topics is a chance to practice organizing our thoughts on the fly. Let's say you're conducting your club's Rotary meeting, and you're going through your prepared speeches. You're asking about birthdays. You're asking about happy bucks. And one member, his name is Gary, he stands up, hey, I want to know about the meeting that you had with City Council last week about our community project. Now, you hadn't planned to answer this question, but you can't say, well, we'll talk about that later. It's important to be able to succinctly and quickly answer such questions that come up. And table topics is a chance to practice doing that, organizing our thoughts on the fly and then articulating in just a minute or two what we need to say. As table topics master, I will offer a question. I will wait a few seconds rather, and then call on one of our audience members to answer in 1 to 2 minutes. The first couple of table topics I will ask Toastmasters, and then I will ask for volunteers from non-Toastmasters to try their hand at 2 more table topics. So the first question I have as table topics is, what is your favorite color and why? Nancy, would you like to answer that question?
Martha, what is my favorite color and why? Well, it's got to be purple. I never even heard of purple when I was a little girl. We always got the box of crayons that only had the 8 basic crayons. And one day, much to my surprise, living in hot California then, my crayons melted and a red and a blue mixed together and they made a purple. And it was the most beautiful color I had ever seen. And I was so excited. I told my siblings, my other brothers and sisters, that I had invented a new color. Well, I was pretty young then, and I didn't realize that boxes of crayons came in sizes bigger than 8. Later, when we discovered the box of 64 crayons, and it had violet and purple and lavender and all sorts of shades of green and yellow and oranges, I was sort of disappointed that maybe my discovery was not that great after all, but it's always been my favorite color. So it meant something to me, fellow Toastmasters, purple.
Thank you, Nancy. All right. The next table topics is, what is your favorite season and why? What is your favorite season and why? And I'm going to ask Melanie to answer that one.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics. Actually, my daughter asked me this very question yesterday, and my favorite season is right in the middle of springtime. And the reason why is because I have these beautiful locust trees in my backyard, and they only bloom for 2 weeks out of the year. But when they bloom, they make the most beautiful white flowers, and they just kind of cascade down from the tree. And we get all these bees and hummingbirds and butterflies. And it's just amazing because you walk out into the backyard and the whole backyard is just this zzz of amazing energy. And it's like pulling teeth to get me to come indoors. I mean, I will take my computer outside and I will do all of my work sitting in the backyard while these trees are in bloom because it smells so pretty. I feel so alive, and there's no place I want to be more in those 2 weeks. With my children, of course. Madam Table Topics.
Thank you, Melanie. All right. The next question is, if you were the color yellow, what would you be? If you were the color yellow, what would you be? Anybody non-Toastmasters that would like to volunteer? Kathy, great. Oh, you're muted. Technical difficulties. Okay, you work on that. I'll give you a different question. Anybody else? How about Scott? Would you like to answer that question? If you were the color yellow, what would you be?
I guess I wouldn't want to be a banana because that's not my favorite fruit. Is that not the right answer? Because that's not the question. Oh, I like the idea of being a sun.
Ah,
Why? You give life to everything. Without the sun, we don't have a lot. But that's just an inanimate object that doesn't change much, or, you know. But you would be very enduring if you were the sun. What are you, around for 1 billion or 4 years? So I think I'd like to be the sun if I was yellow.
thank you very much. Very nice. Okay, Kathy, can you unmute yourself now? No? No? Ah. Well, we can't hear you then. How about, okay, let's see. The next question is, what is the best thing about your club? What is the best thing about your club? Yes, Kathy, please.
All right, well, my name's Katie. I'll jump
Katie,
in. since
sorry.
Kathy. The best thing about my club is that they love to connect with people. And so we spend a lot of time going out into the community and doing service projects that really touch people's hearts. And it gives them a sense of community that's been really missing in COVID through this time. And it really helps to show how much people are cared for and cared about, and that they really have a chance to get to know one another on a deeper level.
Very nice. And which club is that? This sounds wonderful.
Tahoe Douglas Rotary.
Oh, okay.
We're up at the lake, but on the Nevada side.
Right. Great. All right. Madam Timer, that's all the time we have for table topics today. Madam Timer, how did our folks do? I think they all did pretty well.
Well, our speakers did very well. However, 3 of our speakers were less than 1 minute. Nancy, you went to 1 minute and 13 seconds.
And everybody else was less than a minute.
It was less than a minute. So
All right.
if you didn't see this, it means you didn't make a minute.
Right. Okay.
Try again.
Yeah, try again. Right. Well, thank you very much, Katie and Scott, for stepping up. Appreciate that. And Mr. Toastmasters, this concludes table topics.
All right, thank you, Martha. Now is the time that we reflect on how we've done. And Hopefully, we get some tips that we can use to improve ourselves as both Toastmasters and Rotarians. Our general evaluator today, leading us on that process, is Melanie.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. We will now be entering the evaluation portion of our meeting. May I please have the timing constraints for an evaluation?
The evaluator's timing is between 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. And can you show us what the evaluator will see at the 2 minutes? So at 2 minutes, you'll see green. At 2.5 minutes, you'll see yellow. And at 3 minutes, you'll see the red. And you have 30 seconds to finish. All right, and I would now like to welcome our evaluator, who I forgot to write down his name.
Today I'll go by the name of Dave Porter.
Dave Porter. My apologies. I would now
No.
like to welcome Dave Porter, who will be our evaluator today. Dave.
Well, thank you, Madam General Evaluator, and what an honor and privilege it is to be participating today in this joint adventure. The evaluation portion of a Toastmasters meeting, and particularly the purpose of a speech evaluator, is to help each other improve. I think of this time of the meeting like going into the workshop or the laboratory where we're learning what we can do to make what we do more efficient or better. So this is my evaluation. And when we give our evaluations in Toastmasters, I'll say things like, I felt, or I heard, or this is what this meant to me. So we have other Toastmasters in the room today who heard the very same speech. And if they were to give an evaluation, they would have possible different talking points to share with Nick and the group about the speech that was given. And in evaluating Nick's speech, one of my goals is to try to give each potential speaker for their next speech something they can think about. Now on with the evaluation. Nick, an icebreaker speech. The purpose, tell me about yourself, and to give an organized speech. Nick, I don't recall meeting you before at First Nevadans, but I learned a lot about you in this amount of time, about what you do for work. And I also learned that you, like most people who when they get up to speak for the first time, were really nervous. And you used some excellent describing words, like the raccoon eyes that you said you might have, or that kind of dazed and confused look that someone might have when they give a speech. So those things that I heard were great. And I really like that you told us where you were going and then you went that direction. You said, I'm going to tell you 2 things that I benefit from in being a part of Toastmasters. And you kept me kind of on the edge of my seat wondering, hey, why did Nick join Toastmasters? You shared the fear of public speaking, and then you talked about articulation. And it was very well organized how you shifted from one point to the other. Here's something that I would suggest to improve upon this speech is to challenge me. You could ask at the end of your speech, as you had some time left, what are you afraid of when you stand up to speak? Or what kind of nervous reactions have you had? Now, I will tell you that your words on articulating would be helpful for table topics situations or a speech, because some of our table topics didn't go long enough today. So use that extra time to provide more description and detail within that given speech. My wife would tell you that I tend to ramble on. So in articulating, you could give us an example of how in our given profession, or get someone to think about how it might help them in a meeting setting. To recap, great descriptive words, great organization. I got to know you, and work on giving us a challenge. Thank you, Nick, and back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dave. All right, Madam Timer, how did Dave do on timing?
Thank you, Master Evaluator, Madam Evaluator. I'll get this right yet. Dave's evaluation time was 1 minute and 53 seconds, so he made time.
Awesome. All right, so at this point, this would be the time that I would normally call for us to vote for who was our favorite evaluator of the ones who qualified, but we only had one evaluator today and we're not actually voting. But that is something that a lot of meetings will do. We'll have usually maybe 2 to 3 speakers, 2 to 3 evaluators, and however many table topics we're able to get to for that day. And we'll vote on them. And at the end of the meeting, you get fabulous prizes, which is usually a big applause and a bragging rights. But it's something fun that we like to do. Let's see, at this point, I would also usually call for the Master and Grammarian report. Today, we didn't have an Master or a Grammarian, but what those roles are people who will sit there throughout the meeting and take little tally marks on how many times you said, And the reason for this is not because it's terrible to use filler speech. Sometimes Toastmasters get a bit of a reputation for being the grammar police and the police. But the reason why we do that is, for one, because we do want to learn not to use those as clutches when we're speaking. And for two, it helps you as a listener to be listening for different things. Now, the grammarian is somebody who listens for grammar, listens for the times when you may have your grammar wrong, but also for really great uses of grammar. So those are some great roles to have in our meetings. Now it's also my turn to evaluate our evaluator and evaluate the meeting as a whole. Dave, I thought you did an amazing job as an evaluator. I thought that it was great because you started out with some very positive feedback, and then you also gave some challenges. And that's really important because as Toastmasters, we're always trying to improve. And with that, I'll tell you a few things that I have to say about the meeting as a whole. I thought Jon did a great job summarizing what we were going to be doing, and then he started on time. The timing and the pace of our little shortened meeting was really great. And one thing I would say is to make sure that we call for our timer and the explanation about the timer ahead of the speech, but it's okay, we all make mistakes, and I thought that the recovery of that was great. And that's another thing we learn in Toastmasters is how to be adaptable. And for our timer, I thought you did a really good job sort of jumping in and being able to recover from that and explain how the timing worked, and it just flowed. I think if I hadn't said anything about that, probably nobody would know that we were supposed to do it ahead of time. But the reason why I'm pointing that out is because as general evaluator, we always want to be improving, like I said. For table topics, I thought you did a great job, Martha, of calling on specific people at the beginning instead of just saying, who wants to volunteer? Because you always get that sort of deer in the headlights look from everybody, but you were right on it. You were like, I'm going to call right ahead. I'm going to call on Nancy, and this is what your question's going to be. And you gave the question before you called on the person. So all of us had to be ready and thinking of an answer. It really kept us on our toes. As for the timing of our table topics, and I'm guilty of this too, we all need to go longer. We all need to watch for the timer, so I will work on that myself. Another thing that I wanted to point out, as a general evaluator, always make sure that you are prepared and you've got the names of the evaluators and the names of the speakers in front of you, and don't forget to write that down like I did. So there's an improvement for me as well. And as for the audience, a couple things I wanted to point out. If you're able to, it is really good form to have your camera on the whole time, if you can. Obviously, sometimes we can't. Sometimes we have to get up and do something or whatever. So that's okay, but do try to strive for that. And the other thing is applause is really important. In a live Toastmasters meeting, that's huge. We're always applauding. In fact, when I first became a Toastmaster, I was a little weirded out by how much applause there was. But it really is something that's important. And when we're doing it on screen, we can also applaud like this. But do make sure that we're constantly applauding and showing appreciation for our speakers, because that's what keeps the energy of our meetings up. And all of these are definitely specifically for Toastmasters, but also translate into Rotary meetings. So that's what I have for our general evaluation. I am now going to turn it back over to our Toastmaster.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you for a great Toastmasters meeting. If now this was a real Toastmasters meeting, the meeting would end at this point, and like in Rotary, there would be time for fellowship. So what is this partnership that you've heard about? Well, one of the things it is, Toastmasters has created for Rotary a series of online learning modules. And they're similar to what we work with as a member of a Toastmasters club. Log in to your My Rotary account and then go to the Learning Center and then choose Professional Development. And you're going to see a bunch of modules. That's the good news. Personal opinion now. The bad news is, while you can work through these modules, you don't quite get the same kind of feedback you would if you were doing this in a Toastmasters club. One of the ways that both organizations can work with each other is membership growth. Here you are, a Rotarian. It may be that in 2 years you're going to be club president. You join a Toastmasters club, and what do? You've just then added to the membership of that Toastmasters club. But if you get to meet your fellow Toastmasters, you're going to invite them to your Rotary club. And it's very likely a few of them will join. Because just like in Rotary, there are, as you can tell with Nick, people who are at the beginning of their careers, not done with their careers like this old guy is. And they're going to want to meet people in the community. And Rotary is a way to do that. There's another way of cooperation between the two. Because of the type of IRS nonprofit status that Toastmasters has, they cannot do community service. They cannot fundraise. And yet there are things that Toastmasters has to offer. Here in the Reno-Sparks area, we have a social services agency called Eddie House. Eddie House provides services for homeless teenagers. Many of these kids are couch surfers. They're living on the street. They have broken all ties with their families. Eddie House has a 6-month residential program. I am now, as a Rotarian and a Toastmaster, in discussions with Eddie House to bring a youth leadership module Toastmasters has had for many years into Eddie House and work with the teens that are in the Eddie House residential program. These are kids who need confidence building, who need to improve some of their skills in communication. How many of you as a Rotarian have had job interviews and you've been a little nervous about it? Wouldn't it be great to be able to go to your Toastmasters club and say, set up a practice interview for me? I've seen that happen. I've been part of a practice job interview panel for a fellow Toastmaster. We as Toastmasters can offer that to you as Rotarians. I am now going to give an opportunity for our panel members who have participated, our Toastmasters, to make any comments that they have to those of you who are Rotarians who are not Toastmasters. Anyone want? Carol?
Thank you, John. First, I want to say thank you to everybody who's attended this session. I'm hoping that you really gained something out of this. My thoughts, being both a member of Toastmasters and Rotary, in that order, is unfortunately I joined Toastmasters years ago, but recently came back to it. But the thing that Rotary does really, really well is inspire us as to why we want to do the things we do, the service, the action that we want to take. One thing that Rotary could improve on is the how. how to do these things. How do we lead other people into these projects? How do we inspire? And that is a thing that Toastmasters does really, really well. We learn that we gain the skills, the confidence to do these. And it's a low pressure, slow moving, at your own pace kind of activity. And it's one of the best ways to just ease into those leadership things. I know that when I became my club president, I needed to come back to Toastmasters to gain some self-confidence, not just for speaking in front of a group, but also for talking to my board about projects and trying to convince them of taking certain actions. So this is a really good combination of activities of these organizations, and Toastmasters can definitely apply their skills into Rotary. Thank you, John.
Hey, and I'm going to throw up my email on the screen with a screen share. Nancy, anything you'd like to say representing District 39 Toasties?
Well, such a distinguished audience. I'm thrilled to be able to even speak. I am representing District 39, but basically I am representing myself as a Toastmaster since 1998. I've seen so many guests like members here in the screens and future members come and visit our club. And some of the ones that are really involved with the community service and the community projects are worrying, oh my gosh, I can't take on any more. But this seems different. Yes, we do not have the community projects and services like John mentioned, but what we offer is the communication and leadership skills. And I like to think that we're helping all the organizations in town. Whether you take the skills that you learn in Toastmasters back to your jobs, your family, your schools, your church, your community organizations, you'll learn so much from Toastmasters just coming every week and having the open opportunity to speak on your feet, give a speech, learn to listen. Listening is a big part of Toastmasters. I'd really encourage you each to go to a visit, a Toastmaster club in your location near you. They're all on, most all of them are on Zoom right now. So you'd have quite the variety, and then you'll see what you can bring back to your organization by increasing your own skills. Really appreciate all you do as Rotarians. I know it's an important organization that we can't live without, and I can see why Toastmasters decided to do the membership merge. Not membership merge, but organizational merging. Thank you.
Okay, and anyone else have any comments? Dave?
I thought Nick said something in his speech that got me thinking and will have me thinking past just this meeting today. And that is that in speaking and being a part of a Toastmasters club, we kind of get to bridge the gap between the normal speaking events that happen at our jobs or in our personal lives. Giving a toast at a wedding, possibly sharing a eulogy at a funeral, or something that's a regular task of having a little work huddle or a work meeting. Sometimes they only happen once a month or once every 3 weeks or once every 6 months. And Toastmasters has given me an opportunity. I was unemployed for about 15 months. And when I began interviewing for jobs again, being a part of Toastmasters and particularly Toastmasters on Zoom helped me to articulate much better because I was in regular practice of speaking, even though those interviews weren't coming as quickly and steadily as I might have wanted them to. So thanks for that tip, Nick.
Anyone else as we officially wind down? I know we've gone over, but we can certainly stay on unofficially. Martha.
I just wanted to say that I think one of the wonderful things about Toastmasters is we're all amateurs. It's just our opinion of how your speech, your tabletop has affected us. And we help each other. There's no authority. It's not like if you take a speech class or something like that. There's no grades. It's just members helping members. And that builds a lot of camaraderie and a feeling of ease with bringing in a speech that you're trying a new tactic in. I've heard many times that Toastmasters is a laboratory, and maybe you want to use a lot of humor, and you don't usually use humor, but you want to try it this time, and then you get a reaction from people just like you. So that's.
And before I call on Melanie, one thing I want to mention is you hear speeches and learn things you would never learn. We have a member of our club who was in construction. He gave a speech once on how to put chains, snow chains. No, not on a car, on earth moving equipment, on mining equipment. You know, these are tires that are 6.5 feet in diameter. Melanie.
Well, I'll be quick, but I wanted to say one of the greatest gifts that you can give the world is to tell your story. And Toastmasters definitely can teach you effective ways to tell your story. And Joseph Campbell, he's one of the great mythologists of all time. He said, if you're gonna have a story, have a big story. And as Rotarians, I know you guys are people of action. You're out there doing things. I sometimes say that Rotarians are all action and Toastmasters are all talk. But that's why this alliance is so great, because it can take either experience and take it to the next level, both for Toastmasters and for Rotarians. I'm so excited about this alliance, and whether or not you come and join Toastmasters and become a member of 2 organizations or not, or just become friends with your local Toastmasters, it's going to be a symbiotic relationship. And I'm just so excited to embrace our cousins. I say you're our Toastmasters cousins. So thank you.
All right, the final session of the Leadership Assembly starts in about 6 or 7 minutes. So we are done. I will stay on if anyone wants to chat with me, and if everyone disappears, I will not take it personally. Thank you, everybody.